here we are back with taste test number 4 in the Wicked Kitchen range. If you haven't seen the rest of the videos, please visit the links in the description box below to see the rest of the series. So far in the range you've missed teriyaki noodles, barbecue butternut mac and chickpea masala. Today's test is the Naked Burrito. I have to admit I've been eager to get to this one, partly because I've never had a Naked Burrito before, and partly because the smell of the kale is so overpowering inside this dish. It's all I can smell when I open the fridge, so I'm quite happy that this one's come up today. It's another mushroom dish in the range. This time it's roasted king oyster mushrooms, and I suppose it's the equivalent of a butter bowl. One thing I've realised this week is that I don't think I've ever actually read the official description on the back of the packaging from Wicked Kitchen. So the tagline is "Grabbing veg by the bulbs." And it goes on to say, "Hi, we're Derek and Chad. We're chefs and brothers who craft humble vegetables into the stuff of food legend. Everything we create is a bold marriage of delicate and punchy flavours, crunchy textures, and all with knife-sharp attention to detail. We're proud graduates of the University of Common Sense who simply believe that eating more veg is good for you and good for the planet." So that little blurb is on the back of every one of the packages. If you've been following along with the videos so far, has it inspired you to try any of the range? What are your thoughts? I'm feeling particularly hungry today, so let's get going with this. So here we are with a close-up look at the Wicked Kitchen Naked Burrito. Our signature pulled king oyster mushrooms, roasted in a blend of Mexican-inspired spices and jalapenos. So despite the fact that it is the least visually appealing in the range, it does look the least appetising of everything so far. This is probably the one that I'm most excited to try. That's because I've never eaten a Naked Burrito, I've never cooked a Naked Burrito, so this is something a little bit different, and out of the full range so far, this is probably the one that's given me an idea for a future recipe that I can make myself. Let me take a closer look. So I have to say the first thing that hits you is the smell of the kale, which, as we all know, isn't a particularly appealing smell. So that's a little bit unfortunate. That is masking a lot of the scent from the other items here. There looks to be a decent amount of king oyster mushrooms in there. It looks like it's well marinated. We've got some mixed beans here, and the whole thing seems to be sitting on a bed of tomato spicy rice. I like the fact that they've included a lime wedge. Some of the kale down here has started to lose a little bit of its colour, but that could be due to the fact that this pack is now coming quite close to its sell-by date, and I would say it's probably to do with the fact that it's been in contact with the acid from the lime there. All in all, it looks like an interesting dish. I'm not getting much in the way of scent of anything else other than the kale, but I really think this looks like it's got a nice combination of flavours and ingredients, so I'm really looking forward to trying this. So as usual, we've got the close-up reverse visual of the packaging. To begin with, the official description: spiced mixed beans, tomato rice, pulled, marinated, roasted king oyster mushrooms, kale and spice mixed vegetables, topped with jalapeno chili and a lime wedge. So that's the official description. We can see again from the close-up of the ingredients that this is the second dish I've tasted in the range that doesn't contain any allergens, which is really good to hear. We're of course suitable for vegans, and once again the ingredients list reads like a basic shopping list of any ingredients you might find already in your kitchen. Regarding the nutritional table, this one comes in at 472 calories for anybody that's interested. And once again, if we just have a look at the heating instructions. So the instructions for this one are slightly different. For an 800 watt microwave, this is 4.5 minutes on full power. Squeeze over the lime wedge and leave to stand for 1 minute after heating. So unlike the rest of the range, this one doesn't require 2 separate heating cycles. It's just one heating cycle of 4.5 minutes. As with everything else I've tried in the range, it's a keep refrigerated item, unsuitable for home freezing. let's get into the taste test. So here we've got something a little bit different, the Naked Burrito. Different in terms of the fact that it's something I've never tried before. It's quite a novel idea. I think it's quite different from most ready meal alternatives on the market. So the first thing we need to do is squeeze over the lime. Wow. Now it doesn't actually tell you to remove this lime before heating, but that is so hot. That lime is literally too hot to squeeze by hand after this has been heated. And there's really not a great deal coming out of there. So what I would say, my first recommendation would definitely be to remove the lime before you go ahead and heat the container. I'm just getting a little bit off there now. But otherwise that is so hot. So first impressions, other than the fact that the lime is like magma, seems to have held up quite nice in the heating. The kale doesn't seem to have wilted down too much. Still quite substantially full on this end of the carton. The beans may have got a little bit dry. They've dried out a little bit, the ones on top, but the ones underneath that are still covered in the marinade, I imagine are fine. They're probably going to eat just fine, they just don't look as nice as the ones underneath that are full of the sauce. I'm really excited to try this shredded king oyster mushrooms. There's quite a lot of vegetables under here inside the rice as well. That's like a huge piece of sweet potato there. So first impressions, I'm quite impressed. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get a little bit of everything. We've got the rice under here, lots of veggies, peppers, sweet potato, lots of veggies going on in that rice. Some of the king oyster mushroom. A couple of beans. So let's give all of this a go. Wow. That was a really nice mouthful of flavours. I got a little bit of everything on there. That all works really well together. There's definitely a kick to this one. So I really want to try these king oyster mushrooms on their own, because these for me are probably the most exciting ingredient in here. They are really good. The texture of those is absolutely amazing. The flavours, you can probably see that some of them are much more charred than others. They do describe them as roasted. I can definitely vouch for the fact that they have been roasted. There's a real smokiness to them that you can really only get with roasting something that's been marinated. I particularly like the fact that some bits are more charred than others. There's a real smoky roasted flavour to those. They're definitely the king ingredient for me in this dish. And I have to say, I much prefer these mushrooms in this dish to the cluster mushrooms in the teriyaki noodles, both in terms of texture, in terms of flavour. I like the fact that they've been shredded up. For me, the ones in the teriyaki noodles were just a little bit on the big side, and particularly for anybody that's not a huge mushroom fan, there was quite a lot of chew and texture to them. These ones are literally melt in the mouth. There's definitely a chewy, meaty texture to them, but the fact that they've been roasted, I just think really adds something to the whole dish. Go for the beans. Not too spicy, the marinade on the beans. As a kick to the rice. The kale hasn't held up too badly actually. To say it's been heated for 4 minutes in a microwave, I think that's held up really quite well. Kale is kale, you either love it or hate it. Definitely works well with the lime juice on it, but as I've said, I would massively encourage you to remove that lime before you heat the rest of the pack up. I'm going to try for another mouthful of everything. Got the beans, some of the mushrooms. I'm going to dig in here for some rice. Try a little bit of that kale. That's all working really well together. I'm really liking the combination of flavours and textures here. We've got some fairly substantial roasted veggies in there too. A sweet potato there. Still got plenty of bite and crunch to it. Nice big pieces of pepper. We've got some char grilled onion in here. So they really help liven the rice up quite a bit. As always, I would have liked to seen a little bit more of the mushrooms compared to a little bit less of the beans. The beans are good, but for me this dish is all about those mushrooms. So I would much rather have had a little bit more of those. What I really feel the urge to do is mix all this together. So I'm getting a mixture of all these flavours and textures in each individual mouthful. It's smoky, it's spicy. The fact that they've gone to the extra trouble of roasting these mushrooms has definitely lifted the dish. You may be able to hear, even though these mushrooms are really finely shredded, they've definitely got a bite and a texture to them. Anybody new and transitioning into veganism at the moment that's struggling with the lack of meat, something like this I think is going to be perfect. You've got a substantial portion of the beans here. That's really going to help to fill you up and give you your protein. But for me, the flavour and texture of these mushrooms is really what makes this dish. It's something quite different. I knew I was really looking forward to trying this one when I first spotted it in the supermarket. Out of everything I've tried in the range so far, this is my clear favourite, and I'm going to go ahead and rate this 9 out of 10. A few more of those mushrooms on there, and this definitely would have been given top marks from me. So that was the Naked Burrito. I did suspect all along that this was going to be one of my firm favourites, and it definitely didn't disappoint. It's a really nice mix. Everything in here works really well together. I particularly enjoy the mushrooms. I think this is a fantastic dish that's going to appeal to anybody, particularly new or transitioning vegans who are looking for a really hearty meat substitute dish. Those mushrooms are definitely what you're looking for. All in all, it's not too spicy, particularly if you remove the jalapeno peppers. The addition of those mixed beans in there means that this is probably going to be one of the more filling across the range. The addition of those mushrooms definitely elevates this beyond a regular ready meal. King oyster mushrooms are not something that I would particularly ever usually cook with. They're probably not an ingredient that most people have experimented with, so the addition of those, particularly the fact that they've taken the time to roast them, does just raise the bar on the fact that this is, after all, a 4-minute microwave ready meal. Nutrition wise, this one does actually state that it's 2 of your 5 a day. I think most of the others are 1. That's probably from the extra addition of the extra vegetables, the kale, and of course the mushrooms. It's definitely made me want to try and experiment with the king oyster mushrooms. I'd definitely be looking to incorporate those in a few of my own dishes in the future. So I really like the fact that it's given me some ideas for that. If you were all on the fence about trying any of the range, then I highly recommend that this one goes right to the top of your list. It's definitely one to try. My apologies for the noise of the rain today. I really hope it's not been too distracting. I hope you've been able to hear me okay. One thing we can always guarantee is that we can't guarantee the weather, but I really wanted to get this taste test video out for you. As always, I'll meet you down in the comments below. Let me know if this would be your first choice. If you have tried it, let me know what you thought of it. Luckily, I've still got all this left and it's going to really help warm me up on this really cold winter's day. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next taste test. Thanks for watching.